Welcome back to ABC 10 Morning News at 11. I'm Walt Gray. Thank you very much. White House has just announced they're going to provide $10,000 in student debt cancellation for millions of Americans and up to $10,000 more for those with the greatest need. President tweeting that borrowers earn less than $125,000 a year or families earning less than $250,000 would be eligible for this. And for those that received a Pell Grant, which are reserved for undergrads with the most significant financial need, the federal government would cancel an additional $20,000 in federal loan debt, totaling $20,000.
The president, through the Secretary of Education, does have the power to adjust the amount of loan principal that any borrower has. Now, a court could decide they want to interpret it in a different way, and they're going to read it as only applying to smaller amounts of debt cancellation.
Republicans not happy. They are blasting the president, saying $10,000 is too much. The Republican National Committee says it's going to worsen inflation. All right, we're going to take you now live to Washington, D.C. The president, the assembled masses there, waiting for President Biden to come out to talk about this. He's going to speak any moment about the new student loan forgiveness plan. Joining us now to talk more about what has already come out today, Chief Economist for the Sacramento Business Review, Dr. Sanjay Varshney. Doctor, thank you for joining us this morning. I guess if you are a student who owes money, this is a great day. You're going to get $10,000 back. If you're a Pell Grant, $20,000. But for those people who are not involved in the debt forgiveness, it looks like it could be adding $240 billion to the taxpayer dime here. Explain how this is going to work.
So you're right. If I am a student with a lot of debt burden, free money is welcome, because this is literally free money being given away by the government. And we understand that this was a promise, an election promise that President Biden made. And he's not fulfilling the entire promise, because there was some suggestion and there's a lot of argument that maybe the entire debt should be forgiven for all students. So $10,000 is the starting point, at least for those who are making less than $125,000. There's strong feelings on both sides. Those who are in favor of the debt forgiveness obviously point to other free money that the government provides, including, for example, credits for buying electric cars, right? So when you buy a Tesla, for example, somebody else who doesn't have a Tesla subsidized it too, right? But I think right now what I'm seeing is, including myself, the conversations against this seem to be stronger than the conversations in favor of this debt forgiveness.
Dr. Varshney, in terms of what I mentioned about increasing to taxpayers $240 billion overall, again, if you're getting the money, congratulations. But is this something that Americans would feel immediately? Is this the proverbial kicking the can down the road, adding to the national debt?
All of it. So here's where I think we should be getting ready for some downsides to this decision. First, we are already extremely inflationary right now. Our inflation is at 8.5%, the highest we have seen in most of our lifetimes, because many of the folks were not alive in the 1970s or 60s to see the other high inflation during those times. Second, I think you have to keep in mind that the $300 billion plus that's going to be added to the public debt is already a very high number to begin with. So we're already looking at $30 trillion of public debt. In the last 2 years alone, the government has pumped $10 trillion into the economy. Unprecedented. $10 trillion is half the size of the entire US economy. So when you ask the question, why are we inflationary right now? Well, look at all the free money that has been pumped into the system. And the government has been pumping free money into the system consistently since the crisis of 2008, 2009. So every time we see an issue, we put more free money on the table. So people are getting addicted to free money, and they want everything to be free as long as you're not paying for it.
So let me just, before we let you go, and this is a yes or no, you're speaking what you just said, very strong words. You're speaking as an economist. You're not speaking from any political angle. Is that safe to say that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm not only an economist, I'm an educator, and I can tell you this is an insane decision because university tuition has been going up on average at 9 or 10% per year.
Right.
University tuition has tripled since 1990. Nobody holds the universities accountable for the high tuition costs and whether or not people are getting a reasonable education for that money. More and more cases are showing up where you take on six-figure debt. This is including the law schools and the business schools, the prestigious universities in this country. And many of those folks, after six-figure debt burdens, cannot find jobs.
Okay.
And this is right now the best job market of our lifetime. There are 5 million more jobs available than the number of people to fill the jobs.
Right.
To give people a subsidy instead of asking them to come back to work and pay off their debt does not make sense.
All right.
Both as an educator as well as an economist.
All right.
Economist.
Dr. Sanjay Varshney, I was hoping you'd have a passionate take today, and I would say no matter what side you are on this, you did not disappoint. Dr. Sanjay Varshney, we thank you for your time today, sir.